He was one of the richest men in the Roman Empire, advisor to an emperor, master of gardens and gold. And he spent his whole life teaching a single dangerous idea, that none of it was worth anything at all. Lucius Annaeus Seneca was born around the year 4 before our era, in Cordoba, in Roman Spain. His family was wealthy and ambitious, but the boy himself was frail, plagued from childhood by a sickness of the lungs that would haunt him all his life. So violent were his fits of breathlessness that, as a young man, he thought often of ending his own life. What held him back, he later confessed, was not fear. It was the thought of his aging father, who could not have borne to lose him. In Rome, he studied rhetoric and philosophy, and there he found the teaching that would shape him: stoicism. It told him that suffering was not to be fled but faced, that a mind rightly ordered could remain calm inside a failing body and free inside a crumbling world.
Sometimes even to live is an act of courage.
His talent could not be hidden. Seneca became a celebrated speaker, a rising voice in the Senate, admired across Rome for the brilliance of his words. But brilliance, in an age of emperors, was a dangerous gift. His fame drew the eye of the powerful, and their envy. Under the Emperor Claudius, Seneca was accused, on a thin and likely false charge, of a scandal at court. The sentence was banishment. He was cast out to the wild island of Corsica. For 8 long years he lived in exile, cut off from Rome, from power, from everything he had built. A lesser man might have drowned in bitterness. Seneca picked up his pen, and in that emptiness, he became a philosopher in earnest. He wrote letters and essays on grief, on anger, on the shortness of life. He turned his own misfortune into a lesson, that a man robbed of everything outward still possesses the one thing that matters, his own mind, and how he chooses to meet his fate.
We suffer more often in imagination than in reality.
Then, as suddenly as he had fallen, fortune lifted him again. A powerful empress, Agrippina, recalled him from exile, not out of mercy, but for a purpose. She needed a tutor for her young son, a boy who would one day be emperor. His name was Nero. So the exile returned in triumph and became the most influential man in Rome. He was teacher and then advisor to the emperor. For 5 years, some called them golden years, Seneca's steady hand guided the young Nero, and the empire was ruled with mercy and reason. And with power came wealth beyond imagining. Seneca grew immensely rich, vast estates, gardens, fortunes in loans stretching to distant provinces. Here was the deepest paradox of his life. The Stoic who preached that riches were nothing had become one of the wealthiest men alive.
I do not condemn wealth, but I refuse to be its slave. Let fortune find its treasure in my house, but the door of my mind she shall not enter. It is the mind that makes us rich. It goes with us into exile, and it needs nothing.
But the boy Seneca had taught was becoming a monster. As Nero grew into his power, he shed all restraint. He grew cruel, vain, and paranoid. And no lesson, no word of wisdom, could hold him back. Seneca was trapped in an impossible place. He had helped raise a tyrant, and now served at his side. He restrained what he could, softened what he could not. But there were crimes he could not prevent, even the murder of Nero's own mother, the very woman who had brought him back from exile. The philosopher who wrote so beautifully of virtue was now bound to a man who had none. Critics whispered that his words and his life did not match, and Seneca, in his quiet hours, seems to have known it, and to have longed for a way out.
A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials.
At last, Seneca did something almost unheard of for a Roman of his station. He went to Nero and asked to be released, offering to give back his wealth, his estates, all of it, and to withdraw from public life. Nero, smiling, refused the gift, but Seneca withdrew all the same. He retired to his country estates, and there, in his final years, he wrote the works that would make him immortal, the letters to a young friend named Lucilius. In them, an old man near the end distilled a lifetime of wisdom about how to live and how to die. Do not act, he taught, as though you had 1,000 years to live. Death hangs over you. While you live, while you can, become good. Life is long enough if you know how to use it.
It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Life is long if you know how to use it.
He had spent his life learning to loosen his grip on wealth, on power, on the fear of loss. Now, in his final freedom, he was ready to loosen his grip on life itself, and soon the emperor would demand it. In the year 65, a plot against Nero was uncovered. Whether Seneca had any part in it, no one truly knew. It did not matter. The paranoid emperor saw his chance to be rid of his old teacher. A centurion arrived at the villa with an order. Seneca was to take his own life. His friends and his wife wept. But Seneca, it is said, was calm. He had written of this moment for decades. Now that it had come, he met it as he had promised he would. He turned to his grieving friends and asked, gently, where their philosophy had gone.
I leave you what is of far more value than earthly riches, the example of a life well lived.
His wife, Paulina, declared she would die with him. He did not forbid her, for he would not deny her the same freedom he claimed for himself. And so together, they resolved to meet the end. Then calmly, Seneca opened his veins. Death did not come quickly. His old body, thin and aged, gave up its blood slowly. Even then, through the long ordeal, he did not cry out. He kept speaking, dictating his final thoughts to his scribes, a philosopher teaching to the very last breath. At last it was over. The frail boy, who had once longed for death and feared it, met it in the end without a tremor. The calm, deliberate ending of a man who had made his peace with fate long before the soldiers came.
As is a tale, so is life. It matters not how long it is, but how good it is.
Nero would fall 3 years later, alone and hated. But Seneca's letters survived him, and every empire since. For all his contradictions, this rich and powerful man had spent his life pointing past riches and power to the only wealth no tyrant could seize, a mind at peace with itself. If the story of Seneca moved you, subscribe. We bring the wisdom of the ancients back to life, and remember his final lesson. It is not the length of your life that matters, but the depth of it. Do not wait to begin living well. Begin today.